The following podcast is an audio version of my latest blog, Enterprise 911 Compliance, 6 Other Incidents You Likely Never Heard About. I'm Mark Fletcher, ENP, and I'm the Vice President of Public Safety Solutions at 911 Inform. In just a short time, on January 6, 2021, the RAY BAUM'S Act, Section 506, is going into effect nationwide for MLTS PBX systems. Now, this legislation, which added additional language to Kari's law and was promulgated over 2 years ago, adds in the requirements for what is called dispatchable location that needs to be provided to on-site personnel as well as public safety 911 call takers when an emergency call takes place. Now, while Kari was undoubtedly the icon behind the legislation, the issue has actually been boiling for over 30 years. All the way back in 1987, the family of an Evanston, Illinois woman died in a fire in downtown Chicago. And that happened in an office high-rise at 111 East Wacker Drive. Now, confusion over the vanity address of the building, which was 1 Illinois Center, delayed firefighters from reaching her in time. And this prompted the first legislative push in the late 1990s. After that time, almost a decade had passed when in 2006, Cafe Billa walked into his Gaithersburg, Maryland office shortly before 9 a.m. The 39-year-old medical sales rep, who had just recently started at MedImmune Incorporated, called 911 at about 9:40 to say he was having chest pains and needed medical help. 10 hours later, he was found in his office, deceased. And in that case, on-site notification may have saved his life, as he was in a remote building on the campus. After that, things were quiet for about 7 years, until December of 2013. That's when Kari Hunt was brutally murdered in a hotel in Marshall, Texas. Now, at the time, her brave 9-year-old daughter was unable to dial 911 from the hotel room phone because an access code was required for any outside call, including 911. Thanks to Kari's dad, Hank Hunt, worked tireless with me for nearly 5 years. And we got Kari's law all the way through Congress and to the President's desk, where we watched it be signed on February 16th, 2018. That was an amazing day because I had the great honor of being present in the Oval Office on that historic day, which also by chance was the 50th anniversary of the very first 911 call that took place in Haleyville, Alabama. And really, this was the first major multi-line telephone system legislation that happened in the U.S. and absolutely paved the way for the RAY BAUM'S Act, Section 506, which was signed just 3 weeks later, mandating a dispatchable location be provided to on-site personnel as well as public safety dispatchers. While the legislation was in process, and Hank and I were traveling around the country, problems continued. In 2014, a Utah man suffered a heart attack at an auto parts store. However, the telephone system identified the call as coming from the company's corporate headquarters. Paramedics had rushed to the location of the main office, and unfortunately, the man perished prior to them realizing the error. News reports stated that the doctors believed that the resulting delay contributed to his death. The following year, in 2015, a Delano, California boy died after collapsing during gym class. What happened here is a misrouted 911 call delayed help from arriving. Delano police reported that as the boy was dying on the school field, several minutes were lost as the school's 911 call was provisioned to route all 911 calls through an emergency routing service in Canada. Now, that service is designed as a fail-safe backup, and it's not intended for primary 911 call traffic. Similar problems happened a year later when 2 similar events occurred in Alaska. Again, while 911 callers were placed on hold, while calls were again directed to Northern 911. Once again, a service defined as a fail-safe, or a PSAP of last resort that's designed to be used only when all else fails, not by default. The reason is because they have no idea what the source of the call is and have to verbally figure that out. Now, calls in both of those instances were related to medical emergencies, according to Alaska Police Department, and the one case, which occurred at a Golden Lion Best Western Hotel, stated that when officers arrived, after being called by a cell phone, they found the front desk clerk on hold with what they thought was 911, but was the Northern 911 call taker. That's according to Captain David Koch of the APD. I've got links to all of these articles in the written version on my blog at www.fletch.tv. Be sure to check them out. You might just be surprised. So the legislation is these horrific stories are finally prompting enterprises to react and address the problem. And in addition to potentially heavy federal fines imposed by the FCC, there's a substantial risk of a liability lawsuit for wrongful death. In fact, when the Hunt family brought their case to trial, they refused to settle out of court and were awarded a judgment for $41.55 million in Kari's death. Fortunately for enterprises, unbiased and independent help is available. The Society for Communications Technologies Consultants International is a professional group of telecom consultants that prides themselves on integrity and transparency. They formed a brand new Tiger team to deal specifically with this issue head on. And they'll be coming up with best practices and guidelines that enterprises and consultants can follow when dealing with this complex problem. In fact, Hank Hunt, who now runs the Kari Hunt Foundation, a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to the education for the industry and enterprise, is an advisor to that group, primarily to ensure that Kari's memory is preserved and not commercialized. So while we're waiting for those documents to come out, those who are currently in negotiations for a solution today, 911 Inform would like to offer our top 10 requirements that enterprises can utilize when evaluating the solutions that are on the market. We encourage you to do your research, understand the capabilities that are available, as well as the one-time and recurring cost commitments. So with that, here's the top 10 questions to ask your 911 solution provider. Number 10. Can you dynamically configure location at the time of the 911 call? Number 9. Can you transmit multimedia content directly to the PSAP and first responders? Number 8. Does your solution move forward to Next Gen 911 as is, or do you need an upgrade? Number 7. Can your solution update caller and location information during the call? Number 6. Can your solution integrate with the RapidSOS Next Gen 911 Additional Data Repository? Number 5. Can your solution report on cellular 911 calls that originate inside of your geofence? Number 4. Can your solution support interaction with connected buildings, IoT, and other resources? Number 3. Is your solution vendor agnostic and available on-premise, in the cloud, or as a hybrid? Number 2, does your solution have a built-in LTE backup for alerting and information delivery in case the network is down? And the number 1 question to ask your 911 solution provider, do you provide Next Gen 911 or just E911 services today? If they answered no to any one of those, we highly recommend that you reassess the solution and capabilities. That wraps up this audio version of my latest blog, Enterprise 911 Compliance, 6 Other Incidents You'll Likely Never Heard About. This is Fletch. Thanks so much for listening. Remember, you can follow me on Twitter at Fletch911. Remember to check out the rest of my blogs at www.fletch.tv. I appreciate you listening, and we'll catch you next time.